Hey Maniacs, I'm John and I'm here with Steve.
How are you, brother?
Welder up Vegas.
Yeah,
at the SEMA show in Vegas. Thanks so much, man, for taking time to talk to us.
This show is crazy.
Speaking of crazy, this thing's crazy.
Yeah, this is.
You got to tell our viewers, what does this start out as? What is it? And then get into some more details.
I believe it's a 34 International, 32 International. I don't know. There's been 100 of them, so I'm trying to exactly remember. But the grill tells me it's a 32 or 33. Anyway, to be honest with you, how I got inspired is there was a guy that was a little bit jealous of what I do, and he couldn't build a car to save his really. He just hated me. So he said, all you build is clown cars. You build clown cars. So I'm like, that's a good idea. Oh, you want to see a clown car? Okay, well, let me build a clown car. I love the freak show stuff and the creepy carnival stuff from the late 1800s, and the Industrial Revolution I love that era. And during that time, nothing was politically correct, and the freak shows were really weird, and there was a lot of crazy things going on, but it's always inspired me. I always thought it was really cool research and all that. So when I did this car, I wanted to do around that time of freak show and a creepy carnival ride, and that's kind of what it came out to be. You know, even the interior in this thing looks like kids have puked on the floor, and there's gum stuck, and you know how it was on the zipper when you were a kid, and you're like sitting in it going, is this thing gonna come apart, right? I mean, it was always scary, and that's kind of what I wanted. I wanted it to be obnoxious, scary, loud. The ride on the back is, the chair is a Coney Island 1932 Ferris wheel.
It's original.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
It's got a 9-inch rear end with a stroked big block Chevy, 671, 2 Hollies on it.
Yeah, and tell us a little bit about the velocity stacks. I mean, those things are pretty cool.
The freak shows and the carnivals and the weird things, you know, clowns walking around with an instrument, you know? So I found these and I put them on there to kind of give it that weird, funky feel, you know?
And there's so much to look at this thing. You know, you walk up and you just keep discovering new things. Like, that took me a few minutes there to figure that thing out. You know, like, let's see, there's something different going there.
The little jester hat.
The plasma cutter, and then flared back.
Wrapped around. But all the lights flash. Like, if it's running, the lights flash like it's a carnival ride.
You got the music going with it?
Yeah, it's got music that'll play too.
That's awesome.
And it's got a big old cam in it, so it's choppy, and these zoomies on it are loud. I mean, it's definitely a ride.
Hey guys, thanks for watching this video. If you guys like to support our channel, go to our website at maniacsgarage.com. Check out the merch we have on there. Hats, t-shirts, decals, and more. Now let's get back to this video.
So how long ago did you finish this?
It's probably been done for 4 years. 3 or 4 years.
So I gotta confess, I haven't seen any of these in action, you know, so does this thing do a pretty rowdy burnout?
Oh yeah, it would. Yeah, it makes power.
It seems like pretty much everything you build probably does that, right?
Yeah,
like it has to do what it looks like it can do.
You know, it does. I mean, some of that stuff, there's a purpose for everything. This one had to have that purpose of just violent, scary, creepy, the whole feel of it. I do also love the traditional hot rods, pre-50, period correct. Like, that's another love that I have that probably not a lot of people know about.
Yeah, it's a good mixture.
My hardcore love. Pre-war, period correct, you know, I love that. But this gets so much attention, and it's like painting a picture. It's very creative, and I don't know if I'm more of an artist than a car builder, maybe a little bit of both.
Right.
But that's what made it work. This one here, I slept with clown music in my ears for 2 or 3 weeks while I was building it.
Did you really, just to get the inspiration?
Oh, I was freaked out. I freaked myself out. So it was fun though, because you live it. And that's what a lot of people like, how do you theme every one of these cars different? It's like, well, I live it for the time I'm building it. You know, like I said, nothing was politically correct.
Right.
Things were just whatever. If you had something wrong with you, they're like, oh, come be in the, you know, the freak show. You know, it's like, today you cannot do that. It's history that's come and gone, and I wanted to research it and go back into it, and it was fun. So building the car though was great. I mean, I had my welder up crew. We did this one on Discovery Channel. We built it for a Canadian guy. He was overly excited about the car. Over the years, I got the car back because I always loved this car.
Oh, that's cool.
It's just so much fun, you know, to drive it around. Yeah. And it makes power. It runs good. It's dependable. I mean, it's just a great car.
Yeah, it's really hard, like I said, you know, building and then trying to build something different and trying to build so being a builder myself, you know, going back 30 years, you know, doing some things, you know, you're always thinking ahead. Like, you're building something, you're already thinking of something else. You know, like it's just kind of flowing, right? Well, sometimes you hit a little bit of a writer's block, you know, maybe.
Well,
but
yeah, you do. And I mean, and even on these, like when we were building them for, like, say, when we were on Discovery Channel, I would usually build 2 cars at a time and then 2 B stories. So there'd be 4 builds going on. But I didn't want to share my time off this car with anything else. So I made the one behind this a little easier so I could stay on this
Really
one.
focus on this one.
We'd build 2 cars in 1 month. This was a square tubing frame laying on the ground. Like, steel was delivered, motor mounts are made, radiator support, tranny mount, like rear end, 4-link, everything. So
As opposed to us, who build a car in 2.5 years, because we're working on it Saturdays, right? Well, I got full-time jobs, and then we just kind of get out there and hobby it, and have a gajillion hours in it, but it's weekends only. So, there's always that challenge, like, what do you think was like the most, challenging part of this particular build that you can remember?
we got to a point where we were having trouble getting a motor quick enough, and it was starting to stress me out. I found this guy in SoCal that had the motor. In the middle of the night, me and my guy drove through his house, picked the motor up, made it back to the shop the next morning so we could keep going because we didn't have no time. That was one of the biggest things because we didn't have time to build a motor, but we found this one that was already done, and it was done right, and it actually is a great motor. The guy that built it did a great job. Finding the little quirky pieces also, like the little parts and pieces.
Like the original pieces.
Yeah. Those are kind of hard to do, but other than that, that was probably the most challenging part. Was just it came down to the motor there for a minute. But under pressure and a short time frame, that's what it was.
And these are the kind of things that people out there don't realize, that there's these times when you really gotta make it happen somehow and just pull through and get it done. But at the end of the day, fulfillment that comes out of it, so like what's like the most like fulfilling moment you think too of this particular build?
Yeah, I mean, it's always like any car build you go through, especially if you're doing it on your own, you get to a point where you're like, you're in a bad place, and it takes a long time to get through that bad place. But once you get beyond that, and then you can kind of start to see the light at the end of the tunnel, that's when it gets better. Ultimately, at the end of the day, when the car's done, it's a success, and it runs and it drives, and people are loving it.
Puts a smile on people's faces.
That's when it's cool. And I have never had the chance to really take the time to really appreciate what I've done on these, because it's one to the next to the next. So what's next? And then when I'm done, they go in the showroom, and I'm building another one, and then that one goes to this guy, and then I'm building this one, and then there's cars out there all over the place that I've had my hands all over, and I don't see them anymore. At that point, it kind of becomes a job.
Yeah.
And when it becomes a job like that, it kind of takes the fun out of it. When I was a weekend builder, or I was doing it in my time, it was more fulfilling, and it felt good to just be out there and just be creative, and no one's talking to you, and the phone's not ringing, and you're like zoned in on what you're doing.
Deadlines are not quite there like that.
And you're like, I remember when I first started doing them, I couldn't sleep at night.
Yeah.
I'd wake up in the middle of the night, walk out in my shop, my underwear, and I'd start thinking of shit. And I'm like, okay, now I know what I'm going to do tomorrow. I'm going to get that done in the morning. Seriously, couldn't sleep. And these are kind of the same way, like even when I'm building for other people, you wake up in the middle of the night, you know what I'm talking about.
I do. I'm picturing myself. Yeah. I've done that not too long ago. The 49's back at my house. It's in the garage. I literally walked out in the middle of the night to the thing, because I had this idea.
That's when you love it. That's when you love it and you're into it so deep.
Yeah, that's pretty funny, man.
But I've done that a lot of times.
That is a side problem with building these things, because you can't sleep sometimes because you do have that going.
Yeah. And I think that goes throughout a lot of the builders in the world that actually build cars. And anybody out there that's going to get into it, and once you get into it, you get obsessed, and it takes you over. So yeah.
Well, Steve, we got a bunch of viewers, young and old, that are kind of like inspiring to do something and get out there. And what would you tell those guys?
A lot of guys want to go out there and just buy $1 million worth of tools, and I'm going to be a fabricator, and don't do it that way. Just work your way up. Start small, and just start to grow, especially if you're young.
Harbor Freight Tools, it's good enough.
Yeah,
get going, just
or
do it.
Get on Marketplace, find some cool stuff.
Yeah.
Go out and break all your dad's tools in the shop. Maybe go work for somebody that's kind of an asshole, that'll make you be accountable. That's what I always told my kids. I'm like, don't work for me. Go work for somebody that's going to be accountable. You got to be accountable. If you screwed up, that's on you. And so as a young man, that teaches you how to be a man quick. You can't disappoint someone that you're working for, or be late, or, be high all the time, or drunk. And number one, everybody's like into smoking these vapes and getting high all day, and it's not going to get you nowhere. It's going to slow you down, slug you down. You can't stay awake and focus.
Yeah.
Have a clean head. So when you get up in the morning, you can execute. If you procrastinate it because you're impaired, you'll never get nothing done. And I see it all the time. I see good guys go bad. because they don't stay clear.
They went inside.
And if you want to be successful and you want to make it, you have to fight every day, 7 days a week. You can't have a day off. You got to work your ass off. And if you're not willing to do that, then don't do it. Go to work for somebody.
That's good. That's good advice, man. Get out there. Start with something small. Doesn't have to be extravagant and crazy like this. This is crazy.
You got to have a bunch of self-discipline and make sure that you stay focused. If you don't fight, then you'll never win. And the only way to do it is over and over and over again.
That's right. It's almost the definition of insanity, but
that's right.
In a good way.
If you're not wearing out a pair of work boots about every 3 months, you're not doing enough.
All right, guys. And with that, I want to thank you again, man, for taking your time. I really appreciate it.
You got it.
We'll see you guys in another video.
See you guys.